Public notice. Notice to subordinates is notice to superiors of the website fiduciary and to all law enforcement having jurisdiction over said fiduciary. No colorable contract or colorable agreement supersedes a lawful right, as this notice constitute a non-ex post facto reservation of all rights. All content, including but not limited to text, links, code, and imagery found on this social media website are a matter of evidentiary lawful public record and constitute evidence and testimony. Any infringement or suppression of this account or posted content in any way or at any time is presumed in law as an actionable obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and/or tampering with evidence. If such acts are made by those on the behalf of a state governmental body, then it also becomes an act of actionable official misconduct and abuse of office. Such an act by anyone is willing acceptance of all criminal liability, nullifying any perceived contract and immunity of office such that the perpetrator may be required to forfeit personal property. The choice in law of this notice is that of natural common law and is not subject to any fiction of law construct. This notice does not expire. The link to the following video is provided in the description. If you are a content creator, you should watch it in its entirety.
Okay, so when I'm on social media, I have a PNG, portable network graphics image file that I post from time to time. Okay, and I post it to @Twitter, and I make reference to the fiduciary of Twitter to make sure that he knows, because he's the fiduciary, he's responsible for the comportment of his commercial entity. Okay, so I make sure that they know that I've reserved my rights. Okay, because odd thing is if these guys do know the law. Okay, so I post this notice on my social media, and everybody else who's posted this, it puts you in a completely different class. Okay, now there are times when the AIs will go through and they'll begin filtering stuff, but then when I post this, then all of a sudden stuff starts returning to normal. Okay, now what this is a formal reservation of rights, okay, on what I consider a public record. Okay, you have the President of the United States using this platform, and people in government are using these social media platforms to post notices, to communicate with the people. Okay, so these social media platforms are technically a public record, okay, a lawful public record. However, if you're participating in that, you've got to reserve your rights. Now, this is how I do. I post this notice frequently, and you can tweet it. I post it on Facebook. These notices show up on my video. It's part of this video, so that when people are viewing this, they know that I've reserved my rights, that I enjoy my rights, and I can exercise my rights. And so far, what I've found is they follow the law. Okay, so it's a very simple thing. Protesting doesn't work, folks. Okay, if they believe you to be bound to the contract, I don't care. You can throw a complete fit. All you're going to do is end up in jail. And you should, too. Because you have reasonable recourse. You can do things in a peaceful way. And you should utilize those reasonable recourses and that reasonable remedy before you resort to unreasonable. And so far, I've found that there is no reason for violence, bloodshed, or anything else. Okay? Just understand your rights, understand the law, and exercise your rights. Okay? So let's read this notice together. Notice subordinates is notice to superiors of the website fiduciary and all law enforcement having jurisdiction over said fiduciary. Now again, the fiduciary is responsible for the comportment of these social media companies, those commercial entities. The fiduciary is responsible. So what I'm doing is I'm saying notices to subordinates means I'm saying anybody who works for Twitter, if they get this message, that I can presume in law that their superiors get this message also. Okay? So I'm telling him, well, if you're a representative of Twitter or if you're a representative of Facebook and you see this message, okay, if it's posted on your website, I will presume in law that the fiduciary of the company knows what I'm talking about. So therefore, I'm telling him, hey, I'm reserving my rights, and I'm telling law enforcement also that I'm reserving my rights. Because ultimately, law enforcement is responsible for making sure that the fiduciary of these commercial entities under which they operate under the law enforcement's jurisdiction, that they also know that I've reserved my rights because they have a responsibility to enforce the code. And that code includes an actual formal reservation of rights, and they're responsible to act. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm saying I'm reserving my rights and I'm giving law enforcement the power and the authority to enforce the exercise of my rights and my remedy. Okay, so unless you do, then they don't have the power to do that. Okay, so that's an important thing. I said no colorable contract or colorable agreement supersedes a lawful right, as this notice constitutes a non-ex post facto reservation of all rights. Well, what does that mean? Okay, non-ex post facto means that I can't reserve rights in the past. Okay, it's got to be at some point moving forward. I did this formally in the courts back in March of 2008. Okay, so I've got a standing reservation of rights since then. I've filed it in a court document. I got the document right here. My wife and I did the same thing. We filed it in the court system at the clerk and county recorder in Adams County, Colorado, and this is what it looks like. It's a declaration of sovereignty and independence, and there's some text. If you want the text of that, and if you'd like to talk about that, I'm happy. Just, ping me. I'm sure you'll be able to find me. Let me know, and we can talk about a formal reservation of rights. But you have to understand what's in that. Okay? So, but that's my formal reservation. All this public notice is to actually remind them. Okay, so non-ex post facto means you don't get it in the past. I can't say, I'm reserving my rights, so I have it, last week. That's not the way it works. It means going forward. So any reservation of rights going forward means that you enjoy that right. Okay, and what do I mean by colorable? Colorable means fiction. Colorable means legal. Okay, not lawful. Okay, so I'm saying if there's any colorable contract in play and your user agreement that you clicked on when you said I agree through these social media websites is a colorable contract. Okay, so what you're saying is I'm reserving my rights with respect to that colorable contract, and you therefore enjoy your rights still without prejudice. You haven't prejudiced your rights, you still enjoy them. Okay, all right, so that's a non-ex post facto reservation of rights. I says all content, including but not limited to text, links, code, and imagery found on the social media website are a matter of evidentiary lawful public record and constitute evidence and testimony. Now, what do you said? You've just declared that social media platform is a lawful public record, and that which you say, post, and any aspect of your account becomes evidence. And as evidence, it's to be treated as evidence. Okay, that means you can't obfuscate evidence, you can't hide evidence, and you can't keep evidence sustained. Okay, So if now what you're posting is actually evidence, that pretty much ties their hands. Okay, that means they can't block you or interfere. If they do, it's against the law. They know that. Okay, power, folks, power. All right, now it's got to be used responsibly. Okay, that doesn't give you the permission to create an outrage, right? What's the rule? You might have freedom of speech, but if you yell fire in a crowded movie house and people get injured trying to leave the movie house, and what you said was a lie and you injured them based on that lie, yeah, that's freedom of speech, but it doesn't give you the right to injure people. Okay? Technically, the law is sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Okay, this whole concept of hate speech, yeah, that's fine when you're bound to contract. However, if you reserve your rights, specifically your right to freedom of speech, and you do not injure anybody, I mean, really hurt people. I mean, people can be offended. Who cares? Okay, call them names. Who cares? Okay, but if they presume you to be under the jurisdiction within that contract, oh yeah, they can ban you, and they will. They will. And if you say things, and if you're somebody that is not saying something according to what it was that they're trying to achieve, they can get rid of you, and because you've given them the right to do that. Okay, so you might be seeing stuff out on social media that is more, you got banned, and you see other people saying things that are more outrageous. That's because they want that said. They don't want what you're saying to be said, and they're going to use everything within their power to stop you. Well, guess what? You're going to take the power that they had away from them. And they're totally cool with that, because if they're not cool with that, law enforcement will crack down on them. They won't cross that line. They won't. That includes federal district court judges, and anytime I've gone to court, these people know the law and they respect that law. Okay, and no sense to get all put out about it. Okay, all right. So I now everything that I post, including this video, is evidence and witness testimony, and it will be treated with that respect. I says any infringement or suppression of this account or posted content in any way at any time is presumed in law as an actionable obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and or tampering with evidence. Okay? So if you infringe on my rights, that is technically against the law. Okay? I said, if such acts are made by those on the behalf of a state or governmental body, then it also becomes an act of actionable official misconduct and abuse of office. Such an act by anyone is willing acceptance of all criminal liability, nullifying any perceived contract and immunity of office, such that the perpetrator may be required to forfeit personal property. Okay? Now, what's that mean? That means if, for some reason, somebody in government goes to Twitter or Facebook and says, no, you need to infringe on that man's right, freedom of speech, then the action of that government official technically is an abuse of office and is against the law. Okay? So I don't care who they are. Okay, if it's the EU, and there's some nonsense going on in Germany and Europe right now where they're trying to ban people from saying certain things, and they're leaning on social media platforms to ban certain users who say certain things. Well, if they do that to you after you've reserved your rights, then that's official misconduct. And what I said is that official misconduct, you do not have any perceived immunity of office. So just because you're in office, hey, criminal activity is not part of any official official office. Okay, so if you're going to behave as a criminal and violate people's rights, you're done as an official. Okay, if this notice goes out, becomes viral, guess what? We will decide how Twitter behaves itself, not them. Okay? That's why people need to know about this information. That's why it helps if you share this information. Because the more people that understand this, the faster we're going to get to a point where we're going to have the freedom to say what it is that we need to say. Okay? That doesn't mean that we're going to be able to go and say anything, make claims that create injuries, or say things that are false, because hey, look, slander is still slander. Okay, if you say something that's materially false and what you say actually causes injury, like what the media does right now, okay, then that's actionable in law. Okay, all right, that's part of a lawful government system. This is what Make America Great Again is all about. under that lawful system, there's new sets of responsibilities that you and I need to know in order for us to protect ourselves and to ensure the lawful comportment of those of our servant government. Okay, we don't want to hurt the officials serving as being our servant. We don't have the right to do that. Okay, we do that through our knowledge of the law. Okay, so then it's pretty important. I says the choice in law of this notice is of natural common law and is not subject to any fiction of law construct. This notice does not expire. Okay, so what did I just say? Okay, if I go and I do not choose the particular law of my particular notice, then the default is the prevailing authority. And that would be the United States of America. That would be to put yourself right back under their jurisdiction. Okay, so I'm saying that this is of natural common law, meaning that I'm specifically saying, no, this notice is not done under the authority of the United States of America. It is done under the authority of common law, the base law, natural law. Okay, so you have to do that because if you don't specify the law, the prevailing law applies, and it's incumbent on you to know the reason why. Okay, and then I also said this notice does not expire. If I do not set a time, it doesn't exist, right? It's like without a day. There's a Latin term called sine die, or sine die, and it means without a day. Okay, so if there isn't a period of time that this notice is actually in force, then it doesn't exist, right? No time, no existence. Okay, so this notice goes out on my videos, it goes out on social media, and I post it regularly. Now, at times, there'll be, there are times where an AI may start shadow banning or filtering out some of the information that I post. So then I post this again, and then, because, it's newbies. I mean, it's understandable that, hey, wait a minute, you have a different moderator, or, people's jobs change, and they may not be aware of it. I understand that. So it's incumbent. If you start seeing your account getting weird, then post the notice again. I assure you that they're well aware of this notice. They're well aware of me. Okay, and if you begin posting this, tweeting it, not retweeting it, but tweet it. Say, I hereby issue notice. Put that in the tweet. Use the PNG. You're free to use it. If there's an error, let me know. I'll correct it. Okay, but it is on my website. Again, the links to this PNG are in the video links. So go there. And not only that, go through and check this stuff out. Okay, take a look at it. It's important. It's important that you know these things.
Please subscribe to our backup channels, Net4Truth USA 2 Patriot channel, BitChute.com/net4Truth USA, and drop.space/ Net4Truth USA. We fly so close to the target, we are on our 5th fighter jet. We will be relentless and persistent until the enemies of freedom are defeated. You can support this channel by using the links in the description, but for a $100 donation, I will personally send you a autographed hardcover special edition copy of Land of Childhood's Fears. Also, visit my bookstore at lulu.com/Net4Truth USA. If you are viewing this video on BitChute, you can use the links in the description to support us, or simply click the green $ dot on our video to support this channel. Thank you. Links are in the description section.